Okay, hope you're ready for another lesson. This time I actually got a question from somebody, which is great because that means that somebody is watching, and it also means that I get a chance to improve on what I'm doing, so to try to explain even better. The question was, how do you play over Donna Lee? I guess this person heard me play over Donna Lee, and the question was, do you think about the modes when you're playing over Donna Lee? And so my answer is not really. The modes, Dorian, Mixolydian, and what have you, for me is the different thing. When I play a tune like Donna Lee, there's no time really to think about the modes. You should obviously know your scales, the Mixolydian and all that stuff, so that you should know the scales. But I'm not really concerned with that too much when I'm playing on a tune like that, where the changes kind of go by fast, but it's still a tonal tune. It's based on an old standard, right, the Indiana. But what I'm thinking about is bebop scales, or at least you should practice bebop scales. So I did a previous lesson on it, and I'm gonna dive into it even more this time and really show you how you can do this on a tune like Donnelly. So first off, let's just play bebop scales descending from the root of each chord on Donnelly. So on a major 7 chords, I play a major scale with a flat 6. On dominant chords, I add a major 7. On dominant flat 9 chords, I also add the major 7. So C7 flat 9. Sorry. So that's I guess it's a F harmonic minor starting on C, bebop scale with an added major 7. There's a diminished chord in this tune. There isn't really a good choice for a bebop scale for diminished, so I'm treating that B diminished as a G7. So this is something that I came up with. Nobody showed me this, but I guess you have F minor, C7, F minor, B diminished. It's kind of like so to my ear, that B7 functions kind of like a G7. So I'm playing a G7 flat 9 chord bebop scale. So let's do that over this tune, and I'll show you what that sounds like. So I think you agree that G7 dominant scale, bebop scale works there, right? Also, I'm doing a couple of things. I'm ignoring the 2 chord. You don't have to do that. It's just something that I like to do. So we have A flat major 7, F7, B flat 7. Now, instead of thinking of a B flat minor 7 there, I'm thinking E flat over that whole thing, because that same scale works over both chords. Makes it a little bit easier, especially if the tune would be played really fast. A lot of times people play this tune really fast, and that you got to simplify. Also at the end, all of these thinking tonic, dominant, tonic, dominant. So now that you can do that, you should also play ascending, right? So. Okay, and also for us guitar players, we need to learn this scale in different positions, right? It's a problem for us guitar players that it's not very user friendly for bebop scales. I don't know what it's like for other instruments, but some of these scales work really well. Other times you have to figure out how you're going to finger these scales. And yeah, that's a whole topic in itself. So, but you can figure it out. I have confidence in your ability to do that. Now we're going to start on the third, right? So I'm going to play the same scales, but instead of starting the root, I'm going to start on the third. Let me try to do that over the backing track. Ascending, and then you start on the fifth, then you start on the seventh, or if it's a major seventh chord, you start on the flats, or sorry, the sixth. So for the A flat, I start on F, F7 I start on E flat, B flat I start on the A flat. It's going to be okay, let me do that. Okay, and I should also mention that I choose to treat that after the D flat major 7, I go to a D minor major 7, where I play this scale. Which is a D flat minor major 7. It's a D flat melodic minor bebop scale, which is not the most obvious choice, but I like it, so I think it works really well in this case. But you might prefer another scale. There's always options. You can treat the chords differently. That's kind of up to you, right? So that kind of creates your style. But what do you prefer? Those are the artistic decisions that you make that gonna, create your style. Here comes the answer to the question: how do you connect the scales? Kind of was the question. Kind of how do you play over the changes? And Well, you need to be able to continue over the bar line. So the A flat's major 7. That's 4 beats, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, new chord. The next note is A natural, because that's the third of the F. So then I continue on that scale from that note. Or I can go up. Just show you what it sounds like, right? Up. Right? You can also obviously change directions with these scales. It's like kind of sounds like Papathini to me when you do that. Well, some of you might say, well, that sounded like the tune. Okay, so that's great. That means that we're actually learning from the tune. Right? And instead of just going, he's doing this thing. So you can do that on other scales too, like the C7. So those are the kind of things, the little embellishments and things that makes it into music, because like any kind of exercise, you don't want it to sound like an exercise. You want to be able to make it sound like music. Right, but so that's why it's better to learn from listening to records and trying to figure out, stealing licks from your favorite players rather than just learning stuff like this from a method book. Or you should do both, I think. So here's the next little thing. When you're connecting lines over the bar line, the next thing you play over the F7 doesn't necessarily have to be a bebop scale. So you can play something else starting on that note. And again, take something from the melody. Like over the B flat, he plays this phrase. D, F, A flat, C, G, F. Right? There it kind of is again, same thing. So it's kind of like a D minor 7 flat 5 arpeggio, I guess, with an enclosure. Super cliche bebop phrase. So you could play that here. So, right? Let's listen to that. So you could also use those little bebop idioms or cliche phrases that to connect the bebop lines with. And where do you learn those? Again, there are plenty of method books that will show you kind of David Baker, I guess, his books. But it's better to figure it out yourself. Learn from records, transcribing, or just come up with your own. And as I said in the previous lesson, it might be a good idea to get some kind of device that slows down the backing track. I'm just using something I found online here, but in the beginning, if you've never practiced this way before, it might be a good idea to just create a really slow backing track. And this might be overwhelming if you've never played bebop scales before. This might be seem like a lot of work, and it is, but it's not totally undoable. Within a few months, you should be able to do this kind of thing, and then you should be able to see some results. So don't be discouraged if this seems like a lot of work. Just maybe start learning the bebop scales and just practice the bebop scales alone, maybe one chord at a time before you start connecting them, right? So there's a lot of work, but I don't think there's that should be discouraging. I think that should be inspiring. That it's, you know, it's a long journey, and if you're either in the beginning of that journey or at the end. Okay, that was my bebop scale over Donnelly demonstration. So let me know if you have any other questions regarding any of the stuff I've covered in my lessons. All right, thank you.